Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another deep dive episode of Severance by Story Archives. I'm your host, Mario Busto, alongside
the other host, Zachary Newton. Welcome back.
We're back with Season 2, Episode 8, titled Sweet Vitriol. And the moment it started, just the way it kicks off, I'm thinking, oh, this is the Cobell episode. We're only doing Cobell in this episode. Which I'm cool with, because we got so many questions answered. We got a deep dive into Cobell, literally. And it's kind of nice every once in a while to kind of take a step back and just dive deep into one character. And they did a really great job with it. We learned a lot about her background, where she comes from, a little bit about her family, or a lot of bit about her family.
Yeah.
Potentially an old lover. We get like this whole lore of the city that's just drug-addled, addicted to ether, which I did a little bit of research on while watching the episode. We find out probably the biggest reveal ever is that she is the one who created the Severed protocol, Severance itself, the Glasgow block, the overtime contingency. She was like a prodigy who created it, which explains her insistence on being on the Severed floor. Her insistence on the fact that they are scared of her or fearful of her. And I guess the reason they haven't just absolutely gotten rid of her by now.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, this episode, I think, also did a really good job of humanizing Cobell. Because up to this episode, like, there's always been a part of me that just thought, like, some part of her mind was just completely effed up, like, just psycho. Like, she needed to be, like, locked up in a mental ward or something.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing how one episode does that, right?
One episode in, and it's like we got so many things answered. I think it's crazy that she's literally the one that invented Severance. So I guess we can thank Cobell. She's the reason we're all here. I am a little disappointed because I have a feeling that means she's not severed, like one of my predictions was. But so cool. Glad she's not. But man, this really was the character arc episode that we needed for Cobell. Like we've been saying throughout the season that she's kind of the wild card right now. She dipped like early on in the season. We hadn't seen her, and the way that this thing's going, man, it feels like she's really going to be on Team Mark.
And perfectly kind of sets us up to the trajectory of what the show is going to be in part 3. I think it's part 1 is the setup. Part 2 is like the breakout and the insiders revolting. And then part 3 is going to be the takedown. That's what it feels like to me.
It does really feel like we're heading in that direction. Especially with Irv and all of that. So,
and we were wondering, I think we both had the inkling that Harmony eventually was going to be one of the good guys. And at the end of this thing, she is most certainly, I think it's safe to say she's going to be one of the good guys now. We find out a little bit about her mom. We find out that her mom hated Lumen, which at first I'm thinking Sissy's her sister, but it's not her sister. It's her aunt.
Yeah, I was thinking I was like writing down like, who the heck is Sissy? Her mother's dead, so maybe her aunt was where I landed.
Sissy's like Aunt Petunia in Harry Potter, but without the redeeming few moments that Aunt Petunia has in that series.
Yeah.
Because she snitches on Cobell. Seemingly, that's the reason that car is out there. But, more and more, I'm beginning to believe that Severance is... It's almost like a statement of where the world could go from here, in my opinion. It's 1984-ish in some bizarre, dark, humor-ish way.
Yeah.
In a sense of like, what could happen if one company had a chokehold on every industry and came to, got their hands on a technology like this, right? Like, what would happen? What would the world look like in some sort of way?
Yeah. It kind of makes me wonder, like, I guess, like, what are the use cases that Lumen's looking at? Is it just to have a bunch of warm bodies do a job and not recall anything and just keep it like top secret? Or is there like maybe some big money play here with, I mean, I think the value prop of, hey, nobody feel any pain or any of the painful moments of your life, like that's pretty intriguing at the very least. I don't know what else they're planning to use it for, like maybe build an army.
Well, unlike some of the other Apple TV shows that are sci-fi, this, I don't believe, this exists in a different alternative telling of Earth's history, unless we're very far in the future. Because think about it. Let's just take, for example, let's just choose one company right now. Let's just say like Apple or something like that.
Clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just take Apple. How far into the future, what type of calamity would need to occur where Apple could get away with creating a new religion? Where you're like, everything is, wouldn't it be Steve Jobs? They'd make Steve Jobs the central. They'd make Steve the central messiah figure of the Apple religion, right? How far into the future will we need to go? Because Lumen has this whole cultish religion. They own this area. I mean, this is Salt Neck, or I think she was leaving Salt Neck and getting to this place. Which at first I thought, when they opened the episode and that car is driving along the coast, at first I thought it might have been the Pacific Coast Highway that they superimposed some snow. But then when I started seeing the icebergs in the water and a few in like the actual houses and stuff like that, I thought, are they in Greenland? And then I actually did watch for the first time ever after the episodes on this, and they filmed in Newfoundland.
Interesting.
So they actually did film on location, which, part of me thought, Patricia Arquette plays Cobell. She's an amazing actor. Part of me thought, like, okay, how do you get this freaking... She's like, I consider her to be like top level. People may not see her as like an A-list celebrity, but I consider her to be like an A-list actor, right? Like someone who's just top of her game type shit. And I'm thinking, how do you intrigue this woman to stay on a show like this when she's gotten almost zero airtime? And it just felt so obvious, like she's going to be central to this show, right? She's got to have a moment like this, an episode all about Cobell. And an actor like her, who seems to be, I don't know a ton about her, but I've seen a good bit of her work. She seems to be a purist when it comes to building out her character, right? And just going deep. And like you were saying, all it took was one episode to make her likable and to realize what her part's going to be in this. Yeah. And Devin's inkling of we should call Cobell all makes sense now. And also interesting is now we'll probably see what her relation to Ragabi is in some sense, right?
Yeah, she drew that connection pretty quickly. Instantly, really, to Ragabi. So, but yeah, one episode. I think I feel like Devin's perspective of Cobell is very different than our perspective, because she's known her more as like this neighbor figure, whereas we've kind of known she's like this weirdo playing both sides in some perverse way. So I feel like she just trusts Cobell a lot more than we naturally are inclined to.
I'm gonna say this. Weirdly enough, Devin may be the person who's actually seen Cobell. A version of Cobell who has her guard down completely. She may be the only one who has actually... I think like maybe what she experienced with her might have been genuine. I could be wrong. But it feels like...
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, because of her upbringing, right, we find out like... Miss Wang, she was a Wintertide Fellow, which that's what Miss Wang is hoping for, is to join the Wintertide Fellowship, right?
Yep.
Which seems to be an indoctrination type of center, and also a place where they can steal ideas from their most promising students and make them fearful, right? Because they kind of have this crazy approach with her mother, where it's like, so her mother hated Lumen, right?
Yes.
And remember what Sissy says when she wants to get inside of her room. She says, that door must stay locked until all are with Kier who remembered her. So pretty much any generation that remembers this woman has to pretty much stay away from her belongings. And as a warning, in a sense, it's just an enforcement measure. But so I'm interested to find out how much Lumen controls in this society, because I'm starting to believe they control everything.
Well, I definitely think they control everything in the areas that we've seen. I don't know what their like global reach really looks like, but considering at least we've been told that, you know, there's a bunch of Lumen locations, they've got a pretty big reach. Like I would maybe think like Apple size
No.
sort of reach. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like they really control everything. I mean, like we had Cobell and Hampton talking about the fact that like they were childhood chums, and it was like, no, like we were really colleagues. Like Lumen had the factory there. Lumen employs everybody, it seems, in the area. And then they're brainwashing everybody. Like you're taking these little kids, you're putting them to work, you're pushing them through school, you're, you know, cherry picking the best and the brightest, and, you know, stealing all their ideas and you know, basically stiff arming them. Like, hey, like it has to be this way. You can't say anything, or you'll be punished. It seems like they run the ship. Like they feel like a very corrupt government more than they do like a business to me.
Yeah, well, part of humanizing Cobell was finding out that that Lumen was essentially using child labor in this town. Now, we did in the recap get a recap of the scene of Bert and Irv talking about how Kier met Imogen in the ether mill. And we do find that this town is addicted to a substance called ether, which I did a little bit of looking up on. I typed simply, what is ether addiction? And it's a substance use disorder marked by compulsive inhalation of ether, once used as an anesthetic. Despite safer medical alternatives, ether abuse remains a concern due to its strong effects on the central nervous system. The symptoms of ether addiction: increased tolerance, persistent craving. Okay, obvious. These are all just the regular symptoms of addiction. Why do they need ether? Was it in preparation for Severance? It's an anesthetic, right?
Yeah, it's a general anesthetic.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So they've ruined this town, almost like, I don't know if you've ever driven through like small town America, or just middle of nowhere America, what we would consider middle of nowhere from a big city, right? Like I remember a few different memories. Driving out in Arizona, like north, like trying to get to Antelope Canyon. And you drive past these, they're not even towns, they're just houses in the middle of nowhere. But when I say middle of nowhere, I mean like these people got to drive like 200 miles to the nearest store type of thing.
Yeah.
And like that is true rural, like you are in absolute seclusion in as much as you can be, right? Out in the West, I think, has more of it. But then I remember when I was in college, I wrote for the football team in the newspaper, and I was a sports radio host, and I would travel with the team. So we flew to like Alabama and Louisiana, in these parts of these states where it was 2013, 2014, economy was not great at the time, and you're just seeing empty shopping center, like almost like the town looked abandoned. And that's kind of what we see here in a much larger scale, almost like this town used to be a center of industry, and then it was taken away from them, and now this is the remnants. These are the people. And I found it so strange that everybody in this town is sick. Everybody in this town has gray hair and blue eyes.
Yeah.
It was just like the oddest thing. I did like the name of the cafe, though, the Drippy Pot Cafe. It seems like something you'd find on the coast, like driving St. Augustine, to be honest.
Yeah, it kind of does sound like it. I'd stop by. I mean, that and Pip's Diner, man. Pip's Diner is kind of a cool name too. Like, I'm a sucker for a good diner. I love the coffee, which is
eggs,
odd. Like most people don't
toast.
expect that coming from me. Like I'm a little bit of a coffee snob, but man, get me a good cup of like diner coffee, some eggs, bacon, toast. It's great.
Some hash browns. Hash browns to me are necessary.
Hash browns are solid. I mean, like they got to be done right. Like if they're too mushy and just like it's nasty. Like they got to have some texture to it, some crunch, you know.
You know who makes a solid? All right. So there's like a conundrum, guys. Whenever I go out of town, like on a road trip, one of the staples for me is Cracker Barrel. Okay.
I love Cracker Barrel.
The thing is, and this is a South Florida anomaly. Customer service in South Florida is like, you might as well have a roulette wheel outside of like a chain establishment. I'm not talking about mom and pops. I'm talking about chain establishments. You might as well spin a wheel and like just play your chances of whether you're going to have a good food experience or bad. But when you actually get a good one at Cracker Barrel, their cheesy hash brown casserole,
Yeah.
bruh, really solid.
Yeah.
But yeah. I feel like I could never swear off potatoes and rice. I couldn't. Never. Some people are like, no carbs. But nah, man. How can you live without potatoes and rice? Anyways.
I know. They're solid. They're staples.
So this whole town is essentially drug-addled. We find out that the waiter's name Hampton. Did she say Hampton? She said Hampton, but I didn't know if she was saying his name or whether she was going to meet him at the Hampton Inn.
No. Hampton's the name I wrote down for him as well. Hampton and Harmony, supposedly old chums, though they seem to be long-lost lovers.
Hampton and Harmony both worked as children in an ether mill, which sounds crazy. And then we hear the story that I was mentioning, but then I didn't finish. Irv and Bert talking about that Kier once fell in love with a woman named Imogen at an ether mill. Probably some BS that they created to make the thing have some sort of meaning, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I feel like there could be some sort of metaphors going on here as well.
You think these two are going to rise to power? Is that kind of where your head went?
Not that far. I was almost hoping for a showdown between Hampton and whoever's in that car following. And I hope it's not Drummond. I hope it's not Drummond going everywhere. I hope there's we're introduced to more soldiers of Lumen type of thing, not just the same three. But I did find it interesting that at the end when Hampton stays behind to face this whoever's coming, that he says, "Tame these tempers, assholes," something like that. Which means that propaganda, they've tried to push that propaganda everywhere. To the point where when she goes into Sissy's room, it's like a mix of these various different religions. It almost looks a little bit like Greek mythology type crap, and then it also looks a little Catholic, and then you see some cards on the table. It looks sort of witchy tarot reading type stuff. And then you see a goat amongst the heads, which kind of maybe explains why we got goats on the severed floor for some reason. But then they keep on talking about they keep talking about the nine. So I'm assuming there's going to be 9 instances of Kier in some way, like the 9 previous CEOs or something. I don't know. It's just something with the 9, and I want to know more about when this was developed. It almost feels inevitable that we're going to get some spin-off Severance shows, and I'm more and more convinced that this is going to be a 3-season show. But I wouldn't be surprised, and we'll make this a little micro clip because this feels good. I wouldn't be surprised if in between seasons 2 and 3, Apple drops a prequel Severance series, like a 1-season miniseries of the creation of Lumen and how they got to where they are today type of thing. Sort of like a Fear the Walking Dead scenario.
Yeah.
Where you see the before. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think I would watch that. It seems pretty intriguing. I mean, there's so much of, I guess, this Lumen culture and world that's been built. I do wonder how we got here, how we really got this far, because I feel like so much of what we heard is it's either just complete BS or it's there's some half-truths to it, but we've exaggerated the story for a very long time to make it play out in our favor as Lumen. I'd be interested in that. However, I don't see this being a 3-season show. I feel like it's going to be a 4-season show, and I feel like Apple tends to have this thing with 4-season shows. So I'm hoping we kind of get 4, because I love this. I love this show. I love watching this. I'll look forward to it every Thursday.
Yeah, I wouldn't be disappointed if we got more. And it feels like the way they're working this is I wouldn't be surprised if they drop another bombshell of something to peel back the onion one layer deeper.
Yeah.
That makes it feel like, we got enough material here for 4 seasons. I just don't think that we've seen what that is yet. So supposedly the guy who stole the idea for Severance and the framework was Jamie Egan, which we see the scene between Helena and Mark in the diner or in the Chinese restaurant a couple episodes ago. And she says that she didn't create it. Her father did. So her father is Jamie Egan, if we had to guess.
Yeah.
More context for the series. So that's more context in terms of our characters' relations to each other.
Yeah.
So Harmony would probably... So, like, if we were going to break this down, Harmony probably wants revenge on Helena's father. So you're kind of creating these rivalry dynamics as well. Like, Milchick would probably go after, I don't know, Drummond. I feel like everybody's going to have their nemesis in some sense.
Yeah. I mean, Milchick and Drummond kind of feels obvious. Like, I feel like we've seen the most conflict between those two. Cobell and Jamie Egan, you're saying, would be nemesis. I wonder, like, what about Mark at this point? Like, is this like a whole... No, Mark's nemesis is just himself. Who do you think we're going to have to pair him up with?
I don't know if he has a nemesis. His nemesis is going to be whoever came up with Cold Harbor. Whoever came up with the idea that they were going to fake his wife's death. It might be his wife. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. And by the way, somebody messaged, I don't remember where I saw the comment, but when Gemma sees the baby crib in one of the flashbacks, that's when she speaks Russian. Now, she is reading Tolstoy. So it could have just been an expression that she got from the book and not have anything to do with some sort of secret espionage mission, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you never know. Do you think there's anything to the reason why this whole town has gray hair and blue eyes, or is it just that there's like 5 people left and they're all old?
I feel like it's probably just that there's like 5 people left and they're old, potentially. I mean... The sense I got was like they were trying to portray this dying town to us more than anything else, and I feel like that's just a way that it comes across. However, if we look at Cobell, like she's not dying, at least not that I'm aware of, but she's got gray hair and I think blue eyes as well. So
true.
You might be onto something. Maybe there really is something tied to like this ether mill here, where it's just like it's unhealthy and it kind of destroys you.
Yeah. So she has that tube, and that tube was the one that supposedly Sissy ripped out of her mother's throat, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was she doing? She was getting high on the bed, right? She was grieving, but trying to inhale the ether from the machine.
Oh, that's interesting. It was a weird scene. I thought she was just trying to feel close to her mother. Like I didn't think she was getting high.
I thought she was because the way the audio was, kind of the audio effects that were going on, and just the general
towards the end
moaning into the pipe.
Yeah,
going on.
That's very possible. I mean, I didn't think about her getting high off of that. I thought it was really just like I'm gonna try and feel close to my mother who's dead. Do you actually think her mother ripped the tube from her own throat, or do you think Sissy did it?
I don't know if it's gonna matter.
I don't think it's going to matter either, really. I mean, I think Cobell's been motivated enough, so I don't think that's going to impact her.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if her mother did it.
Yeah.
It seems like Sissy was tired of her anyways, so maybe she did it, but
did it out of distaste for Lumen. That's where my head went.
I feel like it might have just been a statement from Harmony's mother. It didn't feel like Sissy was lying about it. It just felt like Harmony was having a hard time coming to grips with it because she was at school, didn't get to say goodbye to her mother, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, where do you think we kind of go from here? I mean, do you think Cobell? I mean, I think if anybody's going to be able to help Mark, like it's obviously going to be Cobell. It clearly feels like that's where it's going. Like, is she going to be able to help with a successful reintegration? Because it didn't quite feel successful yet.
Yeah, it feels almost like this is her redemption in a way. Like she's gonna be able to close the circle on reintegration. So the road bumps that Ragabi's been running into, I feel like bringing Harmony, who's clearly this freaking genius uh, prodigy, right? She's going to be able to complete it and take credit for something finally, which is the reintegration, and maybe undo and bring Lumen down
Yeah.
because of it, or at least have something to fight back against them. So what I think what's going to happen is seems to be the obvious. She's heading back to town. She's going straight to Mark's house. Or maybe she's going to say meet somewhere else because Lumen is probably monitoring everything. And she's obviously testing Mark to see how successful the reintegration was, to see how much he can remember from the severed floor. And then the game plan from there, I think we're going to get like this epic 2 episodes where they're plotting an Ocean's 11 style heist of not robbing the casino, but robbing Lumen of Gemma, and then figuring out the next move.
Yeah, we've gotta break Gemma out. Like I think that's where this season is
ends.
going. Like we break Gemma out, and then we've kind of assembled this force, with the goal of taking Lumen down. And I think that's where Irv comes back, because I don't think we're done with Irv. Like I think there's still story to be had with him. I don't think it's going to be from within the severed floor.
What do you think the intention was of Lumen going out to this house? Do you think that they're at the point where they're gonna just try to kill Harmony?
I feel like we're at that point. Yeah, I mean, like I would not put killing people past Lumen in any way.
Well, especially since Sissy's gonna spill the beans to whoever comes to that house, right? So she's gonna say she has the blueprints or some crap like that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that information's gonna be harmful to Cobell in any way. I mean, she was the person who invented it. I'm sure Lumen is already fully aware of that. Unless you think maybe like
No, because she could
Jamie
disrupt
just
and
stole
say
the
that
plans.
yeah, she could say that she invented it. It depends how much power they have. You know, I know Helena said they fear nobody, but Harmony's a pretty frightening person. So we'll see. I feel like a determined Harmony is not somebody you want to mess with.
No, not that I feel like she's less insane now. She seems like she's got her head on her shoulders. And I kind of feel like you had mentioned something like at the very beginning of this, where it's like, hey, maybe Devin actually did know the real Harmony. I think you might be right? Like the Harmony outside of Lumen kind of felt caring. It was in a weird way, but she did kind of feel caring. So
Yeah.
It's
kind of like, what would this person be if she could forget all the horrible things that happened to her?
Yeah.
And then she sees this beautiful example of like brother and sister love, right? Mm-hmm. And then she sees a pregnant woman who needs help, and she kind of finds herself in that process of trying to help this person. But then I think there is a bit of truth that she became obsessed with them in a sense, because that was the love that she was craving, maybe. So, yeah.
I wonder if
maybe part of her was horrified that her work was being used in this way, but like with Gemma. But she seemed very intent on wanting to oversee it still. So I think that she's in favor of what's going on in there. I think she's more just mad that she's not involved, or that they've iced her out.
Yeah. I wonder if Cobell is like the person that talked Mark's wife into doing this whole thing, undergoing the operation and becoming basically like a lab rat.
Maybe. That is definitely up in the air, but
that
I
could
don't
explain
see
her obsession with Mark, though.
Gemma was very smart, though. I feel like whatever Gemma did was of her own volition.
Yes.
Maybe she was deceived into what exactly and how long it was going to take, or maybe she was completely dead and unconscious, and they brought her back. Who knows?
I don't know. I do think, this was of Gemma's own will, right? But I guess what I mean is like maybe Cobell was the one that like planted the seed, right? Like she was kind of just like the the person that ended up getting her in there. You know, she just happened to be that friend. Because I mean, I feel like that would kind of explain her really bizarre obsession over Mark, and just like how much focus she's been, and she's literally lived next door. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be very surprised if it turns out to be that way.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think we talked about just about everything on this episode for the most part. We could dive into some categories, and we could discuss some other things. Did you catch the Oscars this past week?
I did watch most of it. Yeah. What did you? You're much more of the Oscars guy. I missed.
I'll be honest. I watched it on mute. I haven't watched many of the movies this year.
I haven't watched hardly any of the movies at all. Honestly,
I watched. What have I watched? I haven't watched like anything this year. Not that was nominated. You know what I found out, and I knew that these movies pay for an elaborate Oscar campaign. Anora is the one that won Best Picture, I believe. And Mikey Madison won Best Actor or Best Actress. Do you know how much Neon, the company that was behind the Oscar marketing campaign, the award season run, do you know how much they had to pay?
no idea.
Anora's an indie film. It was directed, written, and edited by Sean Baker. I don't think I'm butchering his name. They paid, and this is the same company that pushed Parasite by Bong Joon-ho, who actually just directed Mickey 17, which I was gonna go watch today, but then I got busy with some work, which I do look forward to watching. Robert Pattinson's in it. Has a pretty loaded cast. They paid $18 million.
Wow.
Okay. I don't know if you can look up what was the budget on Anora itself. What was the budget of the film? Not the Oscar run, just what was the budget of Anora, the film? It was $6 million. They paid 3 times the budget of the actual film to push it through the Oscars. How the hell can an indie film win Best Picture without spending close to $20 million? Is it even organically possible without a company? I would have to say no, based on that answer. You would need a company like Neon, which obviously is taking a huge gamble, right? You're spending $18 million, so kudos to them. They're seeing promise in the film, and they're going to push it. So I guess the hope of an indie film would be you got to be so damn good that a company like Neon gets behind you and says, F it. We have an opportunity to get the company name bigger. We have an opportunity for a Best Actress, Best Actor award here, and a Best Picture film, and possibly Best Director.
Yeah.
So all those various things. So I found that really interesting, and also just what a machine. That's why I think a lot of these big directors just they don't give a damn about winning to me, it's almost like Chris Nolan doesn't give a damn about winning an Oscar. Like, he went all in on Oppenheimer for that award season, but he doesn't do it on all his films. And I think because it's just so much work to go through the award season and to do all of the press stuff that you got to do in order to be in the limelight long enough. And I know it feels like Timothée Chalamet went on an absolute media assault to try to win Best Actor. And he did not win it. Adrian Brody won it for The Brutalist, which I need to watch. It was just
it's on my list. It's 4 hours though. It's so hard.
Well, every time I was gonna go watch it, I was like, it's 4 hours. I'm not gonna go watch 4 hours. I mean, like, the weather's been so nice. I'm not gonna go to the beach.
I mean, I just wouldn't be able to get away for a solid 4 hours.
Well, I'll do it for a film. It's just I don't know. The Brutalist, I will watch it. I just haven't. Me personally, I saw The Conclave today.
What did you think?
Did you watch it?
I have not seen it. No, I think the only movie I've seen on the Oscars list so far has been Wicked, actually, because my daughter's like super into The Wizard of Oz right now.
I haven't watched Wicked, but every girl I know who's watched it loves it. Conclave was fascinating in the sense that you got to go behind you get to see the process of the conclave, which is where they vote for the next pope. And it was fascinating. I do feel like they were trying to make social justice and political statements. And I'll leave it to the audience, but it is definitely, like, I love Ralph Fiennes, bro. Like, and Stanley Tucci's in it too. He's awesome. And John Lithgow's in it, who just got cast as Dumbledore in the reboot Harry Potter series that's coming out. I like John Lithgow.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about him as Dumbledore. He better put on a British accent for it. That's all I gotta say.
He was great in Dexter. I mean, that's all I know.
Yeah. Harry Potter's like today I was walking in the park and I was thinking, what if Story Archives, what if I got a few actors and we just read the whole series and everybody played a different, like 3 or 4 people played a different role and we just read the whole series and just dropped it as a podcast. Like, I would do that 100%. Personally, I know you wouldn't do it, but
no, I'm not the actor kind.
We'll put you as the voice of Ronald Weasley.
That's perfect.
No, but I do think I'm actually excited to see John Lithgow as Dumbledore. When I was watching him in the Conclave, I was like, I could see aspects of it. He's tall, he has a presence to him. I just want to see what he does with what he chooses to do with his voice. That's what I'm waiting to see what he does. But anyways, Ralph Fiennes is the main character. He plays Cardinal Lawrence. And he's just so good, man. He's so good in the film. But, yeah, I have my thoughts on statements they were trying to make. But nonetheless, I thought it was a real, like, you leave that movie and it'll leave an impact for sure. For sure. So, but there's lots of talk on it. What else do I want to watch?
I still got to catch Dune Part 2. I've just heard a lot of people, like, confused about what it's about. But I'll wait till I see it.
I don't think it got nominated. I don't think it got. Yeah, I did. I don't think it got nominated for anything, which is absurd to me. That just goes to show you, like, it's crazy that it didn't get nominated for. I don't think I have to go look at the awards. So
no. They won. They won like best sound design or something like that for Dune. But
I'm not sure if I saw. I don't know if I saw a better film than Dune 2 last year. So that's the thing. So
production design, sound.
Did it get nominated for Best Picture? Did it get nominated for Best Picture?
It got nominated for cinematography. It got nominated for Best Picture, but Anora won that. Yeah,
I gotta watch it. I guess I gotta watch Anora. The thing is that the Oscars and a lot of these award contests have turned into like. There's a specific type of film every year that you feel like that's an Oscar, like that's gonna win an Oscar. And some of them fall into this niche that's just perfect. I think Anora probably hit it. I am looking forward to watching it. I just haven't watched it, which is crazy because Mikey Madison joins the list of the more and more Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, directed by Quentin Tarantino, is more and more becoming like. This was the film before all the stars from that film became big stars. And it's hilarious because it's a commentary on Hollywood in a sense of the glory days of Hollywood. You have the 2 biggest movie stars, or 2 of the biggest, in Leo and Brad in the movie. And then you got the entire next generation of like film stars. If you just want to look them up on how many film stars are in there, you got freaking Austin Butler, who's in there. Okay, you have Sydney Sweeney, who's in there. You have... What is her name? Margaret Qualley, I think is her name. Margaret Qualley or something like that. Mikey Madison's in there. And that's just the Manson crew. So the Manson crew now from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has like 4 of the biggest stars in the world. And I think I'm missing a few more that are from that movie. So whoever did the casting, I don't know how intentional it was. I don't know who calls the shots. But whoever did the casting in that movie specifically has either a pulse or tremendous influence. That because the way it kickstarted each one of those careers after that is insane when you look back a couple years now.
Yeah.
So absolutely absurd. So anyways, I really didn't pay attention to the Oscars other than who won Best Actor. Shame on me. But my film snob self comes to life like a few times a year where I just do marathons on movies. I've watched a couple. Nosferatu is on Peacock as well.
I want to watch Nosferatu.
I haven't heard like great things from friends of mine who've watched it, but nonetheless, it looks beautiful. Like cinematography wise, looks gorgeous. So Yeah, there's a lot. The Bob Dylan one, I love Bob Dylan's music, but for some reason the music, maybe because we've had so many duds, like so many dud music biopics recently, that I haven't been very interested in watching the Bob Dylan movie. But I love Bob Dylan's music.
Same.
So, and I like Timothy Chalamet. So and he did put a lot of effort into it. But I was watching, man. There's some highlights of the Emmys a couple years back, and it was like the golden days of TV, Zach.
Yeah.
There was a year where Bryan Cranston, this is for Best Actor in a television series.
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston, John Hamm, Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, Kevin Spacey, and Jeff Daniels all competing for Best Actor. Dude, that is like there's just some years where the competition is so stiff that it's insane. But I think the Oscars this year might have benefited us because Adrian Brody won Best Actor.
Yeah, he did.
And he's in Peaky Blinders season 3, my least favorite season. And maybe it'll just bring more attention to Peaky Blinders, which I don't know if that benefits us or not, because our most viewed video on YouTube is our Peaky Blinders episode 1, but it's our first podcast episode ever, so it's horrible. So I feel like it's like the worst possible funnel for us because it's us not knowing how to do this thing. And it's the most viewed episode. I think we have like, I don't know how many thousands of views we have on that thing.
I don't know. It's so raw. It's literally like, oh my God, that brings me back. That was some time ago.
Yeah. So, but hey, good back-to-back years, right? Because Cillian Murphy won it last year. Mm-hmm. And Adrian Brody won it this year. So the Peaky Blinders boys are on the come up, dude. That's 2 back-to-back Peaky Blinder actors winning. Shit. Or maybe we're going to be on a trajectory pretty soon for like one of the best podcasts in the world. You never know.
Yeah, top Peaky Blinders podcast. We got to bring that one back. We got to claim number 1 again on that.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's do categories, or let's just call it.
I mean, we'll do categories. I think it's super quick. We'll do favorite character of the episode. I think that's a gimme. Mark. Yeah, Mark wasn't even in the fucking episode. Clearly, it's Cobell, guys. Clearly, it's Cobell.
Whoa,
yeah. How about favorite line? Tame these tempers, asshole.
Yeah, it'd have to be that one. Yeah. I did like when she says old colleagues lift each other up. He says, old colleagues, we were child labor.
Oh, that was great. Favorite scene?
Finding out that she invented freaking Severance.
It's hard to top that. I love the spooky basement vibes from that room. I tell you what, I need a bust of my head,
Oh,
bro, calm down, bro.
I was wondering where that statement was going.
You saw the same episode I did.
I dozed off. I was like, whoa.
No. I need a bust of my head like that as well, just like sitting on a shelf somewhere. It's hilarious. All right, and that's all she wrote. So, anyways. Anything else you want to plug?
No, I gotta do a part 2 of Court of Gold. We're gonna finish that series on the channel. I keep on getting recommendations for the show on Hulu called Paradise. I've seen it a couple of times.
I've heard about it a couple of times.
I'm gonna look at it, guys. I'm gonna look at it. Does anybody have a Hulu subscription I can borrow?
I do, actually. I didn't say that on live air. I might know somebody who does.
Send me yours, Zach, because you have my HBO. So
yeah, I know.
It's only right.
I'll share.
Okay, so that's what's gonna happen, and then we're also gonna drop an interview I did with my friend Isaac, who is an actor in Dexter: Original Sin. So that'll be a very long one, and we're trying to launch a series that kind of opens up the podcast to people who aren't just watching our shows, right? Mm-hmm. People who aren't just watching the shows that we're commentating on. So we're gonna drop some more traditional interview style stuff, and we'll see how it goes.
For sure. Awesome. Well, as always, thank you for listening to this episode of Severance by Story Archives. You can find this podcast anywhere you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify primarily. You can visit us on YouTube at Story Archives Podcast. And you can visit our website at soapbox.house, where you'll find links to this show and our social platforms over there. I think that'll do it.
Yeah, subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 1,000. Peace. Bye.
Peace.